I wasn't planning on doing another video this week after my other video a couple days ago. Y'all can tell by the look I got on my face, man. Why am I shaking my head? Because I listened to a interview from last night between a fraternity brother of mine, and you notice I'm putting that in quotes, a fraternity brother of mine, Kevin Samuels, interviewing Feliciano T. Collins, aka Alpha Male Strategies. Kevin, bruh, tell you directly, man, you should be ashamed of yourself. There are portions of that interview, one in particular, you should be ashamed of yourself. Yeah, I'm saying it to you, bruh. You should be ashamed of yourself, man. Why should Kevin be ashamed of himself? See, most of the young knuckleheads would not be familiar with this concept, but there's a concept known as revisionist history. Revisionist history. What does that mean in simple terms? It's basically, let's say something went down like 2 years ago. And then when you talk about it 2 years later, you change a lot of the elements of what actually went down, and you put a totally different spin on it. You put a totally different spin on it and make it seem like something else went down. That's revisionist history, man. That's revisionist history. So in this video, I'm trying to keep it short, but I'm talking about two things, man. I'm talking about my response to Kevin Samuels' interview of Alpha Male Strategies. And then I want to talk about my man C Boogie's. He did a video yesterday that was interesting. He had an interesting discussion that involved me. So shout out to C Boogie. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But let's start off with Kevin Samuels interviewing Alpha Male Strategies. And see, a lot of people who follow AMS, they probably only been following him like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, maybe a year and a half. But a lot of his fans, they weren't there at the beginning. See, this first of all, this relates to, remember the video I did just a few weeks ago where I was talking about the difference between evolving and flip-flopping? And that was related to something to do with the black male YouTuber, Mami Obsidian Ali. I did, see, this is the same problem I had with Mami Obsidian Ali, man. This is the same problem. The same problem I have right now with AMS is the same problem I had with Mami Obsidian Ali. See, Mami Obsidian Ali, he wants people to forget certain aspects of his past. He wants people to forget about certain aspects of his past. That's not part of evolving. I'm here to tell you, that's not part of evolving. When you evolve, I said this on that video, when you evolve, you acknowledge the wrongs of your past. That's part of evolving. When you evolve, you acknowledge your past, and more specifically, you acknowledge the flaws, weaknesses, and wrongs of your past before you move forward. That's what you do when you evolve. I'm listening to Alpha Male Strategies, And my wife even listened to most of it. And she's not even really deep into the manosphere, and specifically the black manosphere, like me and most black men on YouTube are. But she knows enough. And even that interview even had her mouth open and eyebrows raised like what? Because she knows what went down between me and Alpha Male. Here's the simple thing. Kevin was interviewing Alpha Male Straight. He did about, I don't know, I think roughly about an hour and a half, 2 hour interview with him. Yeah, it's about roughly, at minimum, about 90 minutes, maybe close to 2 hours. And the biggest, there was these 2 to 3 portions of it that had my eyebrows raised and my mouth open. But the biggest part was Kevin was asking AMS about the idea of avoiding beef in order to help his business grow. Kevin basically said, AMS, I've studied you and I noticed that you have generally avoided beefs, and as a result, it's allowed your business to grow. And then Alpha Male Strategist was like, yeah, I'm not into beefing with people, and I try to ignore my haters and harsh critics, and I just try to concentrate on my business goals. And yeah, but when you're successful and popular, you're always going to have people trying to beef with you and trying to hate on you, and you just got to ignore that stuff and, concentrate on your business goals. Insert dog face here. Nigga. I can't believe this motherfucker had the gall to say that shit. To refresh your memory, for those that might be not familiar with how Alpha Male Strategies came to be, the interview with Kevin and Alpha Male Strategies made it seem like Alpha Male Strategies just got on YouTube, start giving dating advice, his popularity start rising, and then all of a sudden people start trying to beef with him and hate on him, and as he put it, clout chase with him, and now he's where he's at now. No, that ain't how it happened. Again, that's what's called revisionist history. That's what's called revisionist history. That ain't how it went down. And I got video evidence of that's not how it went down. That's the thing. I got both audio and video evidence that would smash that revisionist history. No, here's how it really went down. I'm going to try to keep out little minute details so I won't get too long with it. But here's how it went down. Here's how I'm going to start with how I first came across AMS. AMS used to be in my comment section for at least roughly 3 months, if not a little longer. He used to be starting with around late August, early September of 2017, all the way up until about late November, early December of 2017. AMS used to be in my comment section all the time. Like I'm talking about like on a weekly basis. That's how I first came across Alpha Male Strategies. He used to be in my comment section of my videos. Yeah, between roughly, I would say pretty much the entire month of September, October, and November of 2017, he used to be in my videos. I mean, he'd be in my videos, not my comment section of my videos. He used to be in the comment section of my videos. And he would always give me a blend of compliments and agreements and criticisms and disagreements. Sometimes he would compliment me on my advice and agree with the things I said. And then there were other times he would criticize some of the things. Like I remember, I mentioned this on a couple of videos before. The first major disagreement I remember having with him in my comment section was when I was talking about the fact that, you've always heard me say, I don't take women out on dates if my objective is strictly short-term, non-monogamous, casual sex. I don't do that. Never. In the last 35 years, I never take women out on dates if I look at a woman as a fuck buddy. Only time I go out on dates with women is if I look at them as potential girlfriend material or future wife material. But if I look at a woman as just strictly like fuck buddy material, I never take women out on dates. Like, not even one time. let alone 2 or 3 times. I don't even take women out on a date 1 time. I just let them know I want to fuck them, and then I wait for them to either say yay or nay. End the story. Anyway, one of the first disagreements that I remember me and AMS having, he basically was like, nah, Alan, I disagree with that, man. He was like, you gotta spend time with some women, even if they just fuck buddy material. He's like, unless you're just amazingly good looking and amazingly seductive, you ain't gonna be able to get away without going on at least 2 or 3 dates with a woman if you really want to get a woman in bed. He was like, nah, I just don't see that. He was like, the only guys that can get away with not going out on any dates with women at all is guys who are either amazingly good looking and or amazingly charming and seductive. But he was like, other than those 2 types, he was like, you ain't gonna get no woman in bed without, he said, he was pretty much almost like, you gotta go on at least 2 or 3 dates with a woman, man, to make her feel comfortable in your presence. That's what most conventional PUAs believe. That's what most conventional PUAs believe. They call that building rapport. And that's basically what AMS was saying. It's basically like, you gotta build some degree of rapport with a woman if you want to get in. You gotta go on at least 2 or 3 dates at bare minimum, at least 1 date, like go out for drinks, something. He was like, you can't just meet a woman, tell her you want to fuck her, and then she's going to open her legs for you. He's like, nah, he's basically like, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. And I just told him, I said, that's how I roll. That's how I've always rolled. Starting with the age of roughly 21, 22 years old, all the way up until now. That's how I've always gotten women in bed. I've never taken women out on dates. And anybody who knows me in real life will back me up on that. The only women I've ever gone out on dates with was women that I genuinely looked at as potential long-term girlfriend material or future wife material. But when it came to women I knew I just wanted a few episodes of short-term non-monogamous casual sex, I never went out on no dates with no woman. Never. I would either meet them, talk dirty to them in person, let them know I wanted to fuck them, and then just wait for them to respond with a yay or nay, or I get them on the phone, get them to have phone sex, get them to play with their pussy, and then let them know I wanted to fuck them and wait for them to say yay or nay. That's basically been my routine starting with my early 20s. Anyway, so that was like our first major difference. But I generally respect, I didn't have any beef. I can disagree with people and not have beef with them, which is another emphasis of this video. So yeah, me and him disagreed on that. But so then the next major thing that happened in the backstory was somebody wrote me and said that AMS had a big argument with Steve the Dean Williams on O'Shea's channel about the idea of being honest with women versus lying to women. And basically AMS took the argument that what's wrong with lying to women? They lie to us. What's wrong with lying to them? They lie to us. What's wrong with misleading and manipulating women? They mislead and manipulate us. So why shouldn't we do the same thing back? That was basically AMS' argument. And Steve the Dean Williams, believe it or not, had an argument similar to mine. He was basically against lying to women and misleading. And so they had this heated argument, and one of my followers sent me the link to it. Then that was the second major thing that happened. Then the third major thing, he came out with a video, I want to say it was around mid-December of 2017, where he criticized 3 black dating girls. He criticized me, he criticized Steve the Dean Williams, and he criticized Lucario. And he said, none of them niggas know what they talking about. He said, none of them niggas know what they talking about. He didn't use those exact words, but essentially that's what he said. He said, those guys don't know what they talking about. He said, particularly this thing about, he criticized 2 things about us 3. He said, those 3 guys, now one, they be talking about confidence like it's this magical thing. He said, there is no such thing as confidence without success. That's what AMS said. He said, there is no such thing as confidence without... He said, the only way you're going to have confidence with women is if you've had previous success with them, which I disagree with, but I don't want to get into that because that'd take too long. But he said, no, you ain't gonna have no confidence with women if you haven't had previous success with them. But yet, Alan Roger Currie, Stephen Williams, and Lucario, they be talking about, you gotta be confident, gotta be confident, gotta be confident. He was like, that's bullshit. You can't be confident without a track record or history of successful women. You can't be. Then his second criticism was, he said, those guys always be emphasizing this honesty bullshit, this honesty shit. Fuck honesty. He was like, fuck honesty, man. I'm going to be lying to these bitches. I'm going to lie to these women. I'm going to mislead and manipulate these women. I'm going to do whatever it takes to fuck these hoes asleep. That was his signature phrase, fuck these hoes asleep. He said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to fuck these hoes asleep. That was around mid-December 2017. Then the next major thing that happened was the black YouTuber Black Ram was doing a live stream, and that was one of the first major interviews of Alpha Male Strategies. He gave an interview on his live stream, and to his credit, I always point this out, to his credit, when Black Ram asked him, who was your biggest influence and inspiration for wanting to become a dating coach? The first name he mentioned was me. He said, I learned a lot of game from watching Alan Roger Currie and this white guy, dating coach. I don't know if he's a dating coach. I know he's a book author, named Corey Wayne. That was the first two names he mentioned. He said, when Black Ram said, who was your biggest influence and inspiration for wanting to become a dating coach? He said, my biggest inspiration, he said a lot. I'll play the audio. I can just play the audio.
The origin of the game, man. How did you come to understand the game the way you do? I do consider you an expert in the field.
Right. Bro, my understanding coming from a lot of heartbreak. I'm not even gonna lie. That's where the knowledge comes from. Now, I done learned a lot of shit from Alan Roger Currie and Mode 1. I done learned a lot of shit from Alan Roger Currie and Corey Wayne and all this.
But yeah, he mentioned my name, so I gave him credit. But then later on in the interview, Black Ram was asking him for some of his specific advice. And like at least 2/3 of his advice was shit from my books, particularly my book, The Possibility of Sex. Yeah, at least 2/3 of the advice he was giving was advice from my books. And I would say particularly my book, The Possibility of Sex. He was giving a lot of talking points from my book, The Possibility of Sex. And Black Ram started giving him kudos, saying, man, this is excellent advice. This is excellent advice. And I was like, hold up. I was like, that's my advice. So you can say that was the official starting point of our beef. I mean, we'd already had the philosophical disagreement about should you take a woman on a date versus not take a woman on a date, and then on the honesty thing. But that wasn't that big a deal to me. But the first thing that was a big deal was when he used advice from my book, The Possibility of Sex, and he was presenting it like it was his own shit. It wasn't like he was saying this shit and saying, shout out to Alan Roger Currie. He got a lot of excellent advice in his book, particularly his book, The Possibility of Sex. If he would have said that, I wouldn't have had no issue with him. But he was presenting advice from my book as if it was his shit. And I went the fuck off. Then the next thing you know, he starts saying the game, his justification for not giving me credit was saying the game is the game is the game.
And now Alan Roger Currie boys, man, you sound like Alan Roger Currie. So I've been accused of stealing from every dating coach on YouTube. So let me nip this shit in the bud right now. Have I stole from other dating coaches? No, I haven't, guys. I'm gonna tell you something. The game is the game is the game.
The game is the game is the game. And I fired back at that shit. And then that's when he started attacking me personally. I want to make note that I've rarely, if ever, done with him. He started attacking my looks, my health. Again, I got video evidence of all the shit, dude. I got video evidence of all the shit. It ain't like I'm just making this shit up. This shit is documented on video. So now going back to the interview with Kevin Samuels. He was acting like he's never initiated beef with people. Like he ain't never hated on nobody. Come on, man. That's how he rose to popularity. That's how he rose to popularity. Was criticizing me in addition to Stevie Dean Williams and Lucario. Trying to act like, paint it like I didn't know what I was talking about. Called my advice outdated. That's one of the things he said about my advice. He said my advice was outdated, but yet the dude was taking practically no less than 50% of the advice I offer in my book, The Possibility of Sex, and presenting like it was his own shit. And Kevin didn't even challenge. Here's where I'm sorry, I got to criticize Kevin. Kevin didn't even challenge him on that shit, man. Kevin knows the backstory. Kevin knows the backstory to that shit. But yet Kevin was allowing this motherfucker to act like he got on YouTube and everybody just start fucking with him. No, AMS start fucking with people. That's how he rose to popularity. He was the one initiating beefs with people, hating on people, stealing people's shit. And y'all wonder why I can't keep that motherfucker's name out my mouth. People say, hey, Alan, how come you obsessed with AMS? Because he's so full of shit. A lot of his advice is inconsistent, contradictory, and hypocritical. I did a whole video back in December 2018 about his multitude of contradictions. I give you one off the top that I've talked about before. I give you a perfect example of a blatant contradiction of his. This was one of the last times I watched a full video of his. It was back in fall of 2018. He was doing this video where he was driving. I remember he was driving. I think he was going to like an all-white party or something. It was like mid to late summer of 2018. And he mentioned my name in that video. That's one of the reasons I was watching it. He was making this argument. He said, y'all shouldn't be listening to guys. See, stop right there. I've never told people not to listen to AMS. I ain't never, as much criticism I have for him, I've never once said, don't listen to him. He was telling people in this video, don't listen to Alan Roger Currie, Stevie Dean Williams, or Lucario. Because he said they never show receipts of the quality and or quantity of women that they mess around with. Like he said with Stevie Dean Williams, he said Stevie Dean Williams married. He said, I ain't never seen his wife. He said Lucario's married. I ain't never seen his wife. And he said ARC ain't married, but he always talks about banging all these women. I ain't never seen no pictures or videos of him with women. Everybody know I've showed multiple pictures of me with different women. Shit. So I shut that down real quick. Sure enough, once I showed different pictures and video clips of me with women, he stopped saying that shit. But yeah, he said Alan Roger Currie, he don't show no receipts of either the quality and or quantity of women he deals with. But anyway, going back to contradictions, he's on this video. Here's what he says. At one moment, he says, guys, never put women on a pedestal. Never put women on, that's something I say in my own book, Mode 1. I said that in chapter 8 of my Mode 1 book, is never put women on a pedestal. He said, never put women on a pedestal. But then guess what he says roughly 15 to 20 minutes later in that same video? And nobody in his comment section called him out on it. Nobody in his comment section called him out on it. He said, hey, fellas, when you're dealing with a woman that's an 8, 9, or 10, you got to treat them totally different than a woman that's a 4, 5, or 6. You can't treat an 8, 9, and 10 the same way you do a 4, 5, and 6. He said if a woman's an 8, 9, and 10, you got to flatter her more. You got to spend more time with her non-sexually. You got to take her out on a lot of dates. You got to spend more money on them. That's the only way you're going to have success with a woman that's 8, 9, and 10. Insert dog face here. That's a contradiction. I can't believe I was like the only one who noticed that. Again, he had all these comments in his comment section. Not one person in his comment section said, hey, AMS, man, that was a contradiction you had in your video. That was a contradiction you had in your video. In one breath, he said, never put any woman on a pedestal. But then 20 minutes later, he said, essentially in so many words, you got to put a woman who's an 8, 9, and 10 on a pedestal. So yeah, man, I was astonished how disingenuous this motherfucker was in his interview discussion with Kevin Samuels. He tried to paint this picture like he came on YouTube just trying to be a nice guy and give some people useful dating advice, and then just out of nowhere, guys just start attacking him and criticizing him and hating on him, and as he put it, using his name to clout chase. That nigga did that with me. And anybody know it? When he was first starting out, he kept my name in his mouth, clout chasing. Kept my name in his mouth. What else did he say that was just eyebrow raising to me? That was one. Yeah, his revisionist history was the biggest thing that just blew my mind. There was one or two other things. Oh, here was another thing that, speaking of contradictions, Kevin Samuels was talking to him about the idea of collaborating with people. And in one breath, Kevin Samuels was like, hey man, don't you think collaborations are worthwhile? And AMS was like, yeah, man, there's some young guys I've been collaborating with. You know, that last video of mine where I showed him with those 3 other guys. Stefan Clinkscales, some fearless fitness dude, and MJ Get Right. He was talking about that. He was like, hey, man, you know, I've collaborated with these guys, and I think collaborations are worthwhile and beneficial. And Kevin was like, yeah, I agree. But then he somewhat contradicted that. He said, but you can't collaborate with anybody. You can't collaborate with just anybody. There's some people I don't think are worth my time to collaborate with. Who has always said that? Like only 100 times. I made that point 100 times, but I get criticized for it. I've said multiple times, man. Like people ask me, Alan, how come you don't collaborate with more people? Because most of the people I've come across, I don't feel like they would really add value to my brand. And that's what he said. And I agree with him. I agree. That's one thing I agree with AMS. He said there's some people who have wanted to collaborate with me, but I didn't collaborate with them because I didn't feel like they were going to add any value to my brand. I didn't think they were going to do anything to enhance the appeal of my brand. That's exactly how I feel. That's one reason why I ain't really collaborated, particularly if you're talking about long-term collaborations. I've done some short-term collaborations that I haven't regretted, but in terms of any long-term collaboration, ain't too many people who I feel have anything to offer to me in terms of adding value to my brand. But yeah, to me, man, that was a contradiction. In one breath, he was saying, yeah, I'm all about collaborations. But then he said, you can't just collaborate with anybody, though. You don't want to collaborate with anybody that ain't going to add value to their brand. I've been saying that forever. See, y'all can miss me with that collaboration bullshit conversation. I'm trying to think anything else. Revisionist history. He talked about collaborations. I know there was at least one more thing, but it's probably going to escape my mind. There was one more thing. Anyway, I can't remember it. But, and this is going to lead me into a segue about C Boogie's video. Shout out to C Boogie. C Boogie did a video basically saying, due to the top influencers and thought leaders in the white manosphere get more respect, love, respect, and kudos from their white male followers and supporters than the top black male influencers and thought leaders. And he mentioned the main two people he highlighted was me on the black end and Rollo Tomasi on the white end. He basically, in a nutshell, made the argument that he said Rollo Tomasi gets way more love, kudos, and respect from his white male followers than Alan Roger Currie does from black male followers. He was like, it ain't even a contest. He was like, both of them have multiple books. Rollo Tomasi is the author of like 3, 4, maybe even 5 books. And I'm the author of 4 books. And he said, C Boogie was basically like, yeah, man, white dudes give Rollo way more love than black guys give Alan Roger Currie love. I would generally agree with that with an asterisk. I wouldn't 100% agree with that. Here's what I was saying. I've said this before. There are quite a few black men who do show me a lot of love, kudos, and respect. No doubt. So I would never want to suggest that there aren't any black men who show me a lot of love, kudos, and respect, because there are. But I'll put it like this. The brothers who show me love, kudos, and respect are almost outshined and overwhelmed by the number and percentage of black guys who hate on me. In other words, I got way more black male haters and critics than I do black male followers and supporters. Here's the thing, though. It wasn't always like that, though. Like, as most people know, I was on Blog Talk Radio for 9 years, man. I can honestly say, man, when I was on Blog Talk Radio, I didn't have that many black male haters. At least not that I knew of. I'll say this. If I did have some, they weren't very vocal. When I did my Blog Talk Radio show, man, I had nothing but love. I used to have a lot of black guys used to listen to my show, and they gave me nothing but love. I rarely had black guys like calling to my show, hating on me and saying, oh, Alan Roger Currie, you ain't all that. I never had that on Blog Talk Radio, ever. Matter of fact, if I had to bring the element, even though C Boogie emphasized race, one other element I would introduce, and I've introduced this element before, this factor before, is the factor of socioeconomic class / level of education. Socioeconomic class / level of education. See, and this is what I'll bring back AMS in this discussion. Here's what the difference between my followers, say, versus AMS followers. AMS, man, he ain't got no college-educated brothers following him. I would put money on that. He ain't got no college-educated type dudes following him. Or if he does, it's a real small percentage. I would say either A, he doesn't have any, or if he does, it's a real small percentage. Whereas I'm just the opposite, man. The vast majority of guys who follow me, and particularly black men who follow me, are guys that are very intelligent, mature, objective-minded, and in most cases, college-educated. Intelligent, mature, objective-minded, and in most cases, college-educated. Those are the main type of black guys who follow me. All you gotta do is look at the comment section. challenge you right now. Look at the comment section of an Alpha Male Strategies video and then look at my comment section and look at the level of intelligence of the comments that are written. It's no contest. I'm just going to keep it real. It's no contest. You can tell that most of the guys who follow AMS are like guys who are between roughly 18 and 24 that never went to college and that are pretty much like kind of young knucklehead types. That's the main guys who follow AMS. Most of the guys who follow me, they write very intelligent commentary in my comment section. Most of my fans, they write comments that you can tell that they are intelligent, articulate, and objective-minded. Intelligent, articulate, and objective-minded. So yeah, I would say, yeah, man, it's not just solely race, but yeah, man, it is true, man. Rolo gets a lot more. Oh, but one of the things I wanted to highlight, I was looking at a lot of the comments in C Boogie's video, and this goes back to the beef issue. And there was one guy who tried to say, he said, the problem I have with ARC is that he's always engulfed in beefs. That's one of his weaknesses. Matter of fact, that was one of AMS's criticisms of me back in fall of 2017. He said, Alan, I like you, but you beef too much. Because at the time, I was beefing a lot with Obsidian. And I remember AMS, he was like, dude, he had two criticisms related to my videos. He said, a lot of your videos, you beef too much. They center on beef, and they too long. You beef too much, and they too long. But, yeah, this guy, C Boogie said, I was, but then two guys, to my pleasant surprise, came to my defense. I can't remember their usernames right now. But there was two guys who came to my defense. They said, no, that's not true. They said, Alan doesn't really initiate beefs with people. What he does is he responds to people who initiate beefs with him, and he goes out of his way to defend his brand, which is the truth. That's what these guys said. They said Alan doesn't really initiate beefs with people. He responds to people who initiate beefs with him. That's number one, which is the truth. And number two, he does everything humanly possible to defend his brand against unfair attacks and people trying to mooch off his intellectual property. And that's why I am. That's the number one reason. Those are the top two reasons why I tend to be in what most people would call beef. First of all, I always distinguish. There's a difference between philosophical beef and personal beef, or what I simply call philosophical disagreement versus beef. Like, again, speaking of C Boogie, if you remember just a few weeks ago, me and C Boogie engaged in a philosophical disagreement in spirited debate that centered on how important is a man's physical appearance in regard to his success with women. And we had like 2 or 3 videos where we were kind of debating, but there were no insults exchanged, no ad hominem attacks exchanged. It was just a purely philosophical debate, philosophical disagreement. I'm going to always be involved in those. I'm going to never try to avoid philosophical disagreements with people. No, I consider beef is when you attack me on a personal level or you try to disparage my brand. You attack me on a personal level or you try to disparage my brand. And there's a lot of people on YouTube who have been guilty of that, including Alpha Male Strategy. Alpha Male Strategy, he attacked me on a personal level back in spring and summer of 2018, roughly 2 years ago. Yeah, he talked about my hairline, which was lighthearted, but still, he talked about my hairline, that I should just go ahead and go bald because he said my hair was thinning and I had a receding hairline. But again, that was lighthearted. That wasn't no big deal. He talked about the health. He talked about the fact that I suffer from type 2 diabetes. He cracked a bunch of jokes on the fact that I suffer from type 2 diabetes and that I see a kidney doctor twice a year. He started talking about I need to be on a dialysis machine. Then the funniest one, he tried to say I was broke. He said I was broke living in my mom's basement. Even though at the time he said that, I was making way more money than he was. Shit, I was making way more money than he was, and he know it. He might be making more money than me now, but at the time he said that, I was making more money than him. I was making more money than him. So anyway, yeah, so C-Boogie is, I think it's worth checking out. He had a couple funny moments in there too. C-Boogie is a funny motherfucker. I like C-Boogie. He's funny. He had a couple things in there that was just funny to me. Well, one thing he said that was both entertaining and true, and I think I pointed it out, it's funny that when I was single and just out here fucking, guys was criticizing me saying, Alan Roger Currie is too old to be out here just fucking women. He's in his 50s, but yet he's still trying to be this player and Mac Daddy and womanizer. Man, this dude at his age, he should have a wife, children, and a family. He don't need to be out here just fucking. But now that I'm married and got a kid on the way, I still got a percentage of guys that'll criticize me. Oh, well, why did Alan Roger Currie wait till his 50s to get married and have a kid? How come he didn't do that in his 20s, 30s, or 40s? How come he waited? And let's see, he briefly touched on that. He's basically like, man, these motherfuckers, with Alan Roger Currie, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. He was like, shit, when he was single, motherfuckers was hating on him. Now that he's married and got a child on the way, guys still hating on him. Which is the truth. So anyway, I can't think of that. That's pretty much all I got. But yeah, man. See, here's the thing, man. People might say, well, Alan, how did you point out the flaws and weaknesses of AMS have to do with Mo 1? Shouldn't you be on all your videos talking about your Mo 1 approach? Well, here's the issue. It does have to do with Mo 1. It does have to do. See, here's the biggest mistake I've said multiple times that people make with Mo 1. A lot of people think my original book, Mo 1, was a how to get laid book. How to get laid book. That's not what Mo 1 was, man. That's the biggest thing that most people missed about Mo 1. Mo 1 was never designed to be a how to get laid in 48 hours or less type of book. Again, I would say of my 4 books, the one book that probably would fall under the category of a how to seduce women and get them in bed type book would be my book, Ooh Say It Again. That's my how to get laid book is my book, Ooh Say It Again, which teaches you how to seduce women who are categorized as wholesome pretenders and erotic hypocrites. Wholesome pretenders and erotic hypocrites. Mo 1, in real simple terms, is a book that centers on 2 things. Number 1, getting rid of all the elements of your conversational style that are dishonest, disingenuous, misleading, and manipulative, or cowardly. Identifying and weeding out all the various aspects of your conversation style, your verbal communication style, that are dishonest, disingenuous, misleading and manipulative, and just flat out cowardly. That's number 1. And then number 2, Mo 1 is about being able to reach a point where you can immediately identify other people, particularly women, who are employing a conversational style with you that has elements of dishonesty, lack of sincerity, manipulation, or cowardliness. That's what Mo 1. I say it in my book. If you read my book, read either the 1999 ebook version, the 2006 paperback version, or my 2014 audiobook version or using my updated 2017 version. I say it in all versions of my book. Getting laid is not the specific objective of Mode 1. It is not the number one objective of Mode 1. Number one objective of Mode 1 is overcoming your fear of rejection, overcoming your fear of criticisms, insults, and negative reactions. And as I just said, is weeding out all the elements of your conversational style that are dishonest, disingenuous, misleading and manipulative, or cowardly. And how does that relate to AMS? He's a disingenuous motherfucker, man. And he proved it last night on Kevin Samuel's show. He's disingenuous, man. For him to act like he's been the victim of beefs and the victim of haterade, when the reality is this guy was initiating beefs with people and hurling haterade at people. Shameful. Shameful. Kevin, you should be ashamed of yourself for allowing him to get away with that. Real talk. From frat to frat, bruh. You should be ashamed of yourself for knowing that you know the history. You let him get away with revisionist history, man. You let him get away with revisionist history. No true brother to bond would have allowed that to happen, man. No true brother to bond, cap up aside, phi nu pi, would have allowed that to happen. ARC speaks, drops mic.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
But the king would fuck me really good.
Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.
I have to agree with you on the communication piece, because I actually did take a session with Alan Roger Currie, and he gave me a line that I did not think was going to work, and it worked. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God!
Other guys, man, he's the master. He's the master of the verbal seduction. He got that communication piece down pat.
It really worked. Yeah. It just simply worked, and I just didn't think it was going to work at all.
Some guys have natural handles. Some guys have a better natural shot, but you can always improve your shot. And sex is damn sure something you can fucking learn. Look, dude, you want to learn how to talk better? I'm hiring Alan Roger Currie to get my dirty talk game on, because it's always been something I want to get better at.
Verbal seduction, man. I'm like, clearly, this guy's the Michael Jordan of seduction. Like, come on now.